It's interesting to note that in the second feast that Esther makes for Achashverosh and Haman, the pasuk specifies that Esther is an active participant, saying that Achashverosh and Haman came lishtos im Esther Hamalka, to drink together with Queen Esther. And a number of the Mefarshim point out that this is different than the way that the first feast is described, where Esther is not clearly an active participant, and ask what the distinction is between the two fasts. The Ibn Yachia suggests that perhaps Esther did not actually actively eat and drink at the first party because she was really very concerned about what the fallout would be of her eating together with Achashverosh and Haman, suggesting that in a naturally jealous kind of society, if she was to be eating literally together with Achashverosh and Haman, that would kindle all kinds of jealousy in Achashverosh's heart as to the nature of her relationship to Haman. And that therefore she refrained. And again, perhaps that's consistent with the fact that we note in the first chapter of the Megillah that when Achashverosh makes his feast, that Vashti makes her own parallel feast. And perhaps that this is kind of a cultural marker of the society that men and women really celebrated in separate venues. Again, perhaps also underscoring the shocking nature of Achashverosh's request from Vashti to appear at his party. Ibn Yachia suggests that now at the second party, that Esther, now much more confident in her relationship with Achashverosh, is now comfortable to drink together with Achashverosh and Haman before finally revealing her plan. While he does not suggest this specifically, it could be that after what happens to Mordechai, that she sees this as a sign of divine favor to be able to go forward. The Malbim actually points out that it's interesting that when Achashverosh asks Esther what boon she wants from him tonight, he uses the term Esther Hamalka, Queen Esther, whereas in the first party he just calls her Esther, perhaps suggesting that her stock has risen even in her eyes, it has risen in his eyes, and that perhaps Esther is picking up on a shift in tone, which leads her to realize that this is the time that she can actually finally plead for the Jewish people when perhaps the day before she was not as comfortable. The Gra has a completely different approach and suggests that there's a very specific reason why Esther did not indulge in the first feast. And again, based on his read of the Megillah, that she was still involved in her fasting and tshuva, and that therefore she was not able halachically to eat at the first feast. But the second feast, where the pasuk specifies lishtos im Esther Hamalka, to drink with Queen Esther, takes place after the days of fasting have concluded. So again, two understandings of why we specify today that Achashverosh and Haman drank together with Esther. One is that, as opposed to the night before, where Esther is very wary of letting down her guard, and in fact of even perhaps participating in a meal with Achashverosh and Haman, due to the question of what impact that may have on the jealousy of Achashverosh. And the second approach is that Esther on the first night was unable to participate due to her involvement in the fasts, which again are the spiritual turning point of the story of the Megillah.